So Grazi was talking pretty soon after I joined the project about how he wasn't planning on getting a haircut until the project was done. And I thought, that's pretty funny. But it's not something I would personally do. And then I didn't get a haircut for 9 months. So I feel like this may need some form of explanation. So I was bored. I've always personally loved Breath of the Wild as a game. It's number 2 on my ranking of every game I have ever played. See, it's right there under the absolutely love category. Before you get angry at the heresy of my number 1 pick, just know that that's not even close to my strangest take. So I was absent-mindedly browsing YouTube, as I am prone to do, when I came across a video by a guy who was building all of Breath of the Wild in Minecraft. I'd come across Grazi before when he posted the previous couple videos, but this time he had just finished building Hebra, which is my personal favourite region in the game. So I went to the Discord in a passive interest to try and find other things that he built that might not have been featured in the video, and I read the FAQ, which said, "We are currently not planning on building the shrine interiors at this time." Fuck it, that's something to do. Now here's where I need to stop and explain a few things. I didn't decide to make a video until like 50 shrines in, and even then I don't have a strong enough computer to do any long recordings, let alone render that much replay mod footage. This entire enterprise was conducted from a Surface Pro. So this video is basically just going to be a showcase of each shrine and associated rant. Also, this video hasn't been edited yet, but the script is 48 pages, and there are 120 shrines in this game, so even if I spent only 1 minute on each shrine, it'd take 2 hours. You can see the runtime, I can't, but I know I have far more than a minute's thought about some shrines. So, without further ado, let's begin. So I began, of course, with the Magnesis Shrine. Well, technically I began by building the entrance, exit, and rune points, but then I got right in. I spent a while trying to figure out a scale, but then I remembered that, according to Smash Bros., Link and Steve are the same size.
Minecraft Steve is so much bigger than Link.
So that was easy. That makes this floor plate 4 links by 4 links, otherwise known as 4 blocks by 4 blocks. I built these out of stripped jungle wood, using oak for the necessary stairs and slabs and such. The walls worked very easily, just stripped jungle wood for the bottom layer and polished deep slate on top, with stripped birch wood for the lighter pillars. The first room was very simple. Stealing from Grazi's tower design, I made the same type of daylight sensor on anvil setup for the rune terminal, and then I kept going. I ran into a slight problem with the scale, with the gap in the floor being 7 blocks wide instead of the 8 that it should have been if we were to fit both doors properly, but I think I made it work. Underneath the doors, I then ran into the bedrock layer where this water was meant to be, so I couldn't finish the pool as it is in-game. Satisfied with my work for the evening, I posted it on the Minecraft channel on Grazi's Discord, and then I went to sleep. I woke up to 2 things. One was a message from a user named Duck, who recommended I use mud bricks in the shrine. I replaced it for the bottom layer of the walls, and yeah, they were right. The second was a message from Alfie, who randomly just sent pictures of the version of the shrine that the gang had built about a year ago. I looked through these, and one thing in particular stood out: the usage of skulk shriekers for these pylon-type things. So I kept working, building up the walls, the upper level that exists for some reason, the water pool, the mini-guardian, and the final exit area. Here is my monk. I hate it. I never built any monk again. I wrapped it up by building the ceiling beams out of stripped birchwood, birch stairs, and blocks of lapis, and covered it all up with light blue stained glass. I posted images to the Minecraft channel and moved on to the next one the next day. This shrine had a few quirks. The first was that I had to design some bomb rocks. This section was 13 blocks across, so I built two 4-block patterns with a 5-block pattern in the middle. Now at this point I had forgotten that light blocks were a thing, so this is what the outside of the underground section looks like in my attempts to try and light it up. This did not light it up, so I moved on. I'm really happy with these pistons, and the little funnel here might be the best thing I've built in this entire project. I was not happy with using a conduit for a Sheikah orb. I eventually changed that to just glazed orange terracotta. And then the endpoint, I didn't build the monk. For whatever reason, this shrine goes a while further back than it really needed to, so I built that as well. Ceiling beams and light blue stained glass, and it's done. Posted it onto the Discord and began work on... This shrine posed a very interesting problem. How to build the underside of floating platforms. Turns out you need to fling yourself over and over into the void to take screenshots of all the sides, and then it's easy. These gears were fun. I know this isn't spherical. We'll get through it. This main section took me the entire day, so I left the rest for the following day. The first truly monotonous day of the build. First, I used 100 fill commands to build all the walls, which took 2 hours. Then, finally content that building the void would be easy, I received an error message as a result of my fill command. The command was too big. I thus decided that the only course of action was to use an auto-clicker to just fly around in a spiral shape, filling in first the black stained glass and then the black concrete. This took 4 hours of my life that I am never getting back. Now I told this story to Jobs, and he said, "Why didn't you just do it in multiple fill commands?" This shrine was so much more fun than Stasis. Oh my god. It really made me want to build Captain Toad in Minecraft, because this whole puzzle box design where everything loops around on top of each other and leaves no dead space is just really fun to build. It's a shame that nothing really beats that in this regard, though. The shrine is very simple moving along until we get to the end. I could not get my exit point to fit on this little pillar that it's supposed to fit on. I later realized that that's because, for whatever reason, Breath of the Wild has 2 shrine exit points. One is more common, which is 12 links by 12 links. This one, however, is 10 links by 10 links, shaving off 1 link from either side of the stairs. r/anything but metric, your move. Okay, so dropping in really quick while I was gathering footage, I went to go look for a 12-link wide shrine, and turns out it doesn't exist. I'm just lying here. This comes back to me building the shrine exit before I actually built the shrine and settled on a scale, and turns out I built 120 shrines without ever questioning this. Fuck me, I guess. However, this was easy to fix when I realized the problem. The shrine was so quick to complete, in fact, barely 6 hours of work, that I was able to get Oadame and Kenamut posted to the Discord on the same day before I kept moving forward. I think this is the only shrine where I didn't actually start with the entrance. Instead, I started to build the start of the void down here. I then built backwards from there, down the steps, up along these little platforms, and I built the big arch here as well. I really like these wind turbine designs as well, with the stairs and the monster spawners behind them. I then built over the void, which of course took 2 hours. I also really like this design for this Tory-style gate, which I don't think is actually anywhere else in the game. Then I finished off with the exit point and posted my favourite shrine so far to the Discord. People started voicing support for me to do this officially.
This is all void!
So I spent 3 hours building the walls and 6 hours building the floor. The next day I began actually building the shrine. It took me 2 hours, the hardest part being figuring out how far the platforms are from each other. The first platform was weird and the entrance ended up being off-center by 1 block, but I kept going. I also got to design the climber's bandana, which was fun. This shrine is incredibly simple and was incredibly boring to make. I have nothing more to say. This is a pretty fun little shrine. Got to create these ball sockets, and this is the only time I got to make them active with the blue glass, so that's pretty cool. I'll say more when I'm talking about. So fun fact, the ceiling beams of these shrines are just the same pattern, but flipped. I'm glad I cared about the exact layout of ceiling beams long enough to notice this. 2 shrines later I just sort of started building them without looking too closely at what they were in the game. These shrines were both pretty quick to build as well. I began this shrine by building the first little area, the first couple of waterfalls, before I went out for the day. When I came back, I stopped working on the shrine for the day while I arranged to speak to Grazi. When we spoke the following day, he imported all my previous builds to his server, and he taught me how to use World Edit by helping me raise the wall height of the stasis shrine. I then went through and fixed the biggest problem I had with all my previous shrines. So basically I built the entrance point before I decided on a scale for the rest of the interiors. The shrines are built on 4x4 tiles. My first entrance design, as you may have noticed, was 7x7. That doesn't work, especially if the entrance is meant to be centered. I was fully prepared to just rebuild the shrines I had done, but then Grazi told me that I was dumb and we had World Edit. So I went through and updated the entrance to be 8x8, fixed up all the scale issues caused by it being 7x7, and fixed up another couple dumb issues. Finally, I used World Edit again with Grazi's help to achieve this effect with the water in the shrine, finishing these little ceiling beams and finally building the smaller exit so it would fit in this cage. Knowing that I was now in it for the long haul, I started building a teleport hub. At the entrance are the 4 rune trials, and then you can turn left to Tests of Strength, right to Blessings, or you can continue ahead to the other puzzle rooms. This was fun to build. I don't really know what else to say. Here's my attempt at the Guardian. Yeah. The first Blessing Shrine. Thank God for Grazi picking me up by now, because if I had to create each of these manually, I would have quit halfway through Gerudo. Big wheel. 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 Big wheel, big wheel, big wheel, big wheel. Just a quaint little shrine along the Lanayru promenade. A nice, neat little build. This is the shrine that most people remember. More than even the Great Plateau, this shrine is ingrained in the memories of anyone with the misfortune of having to deal with motion controls. No shrine is more painful to complete, and no shrine took more precision to accurately build. Okay, yeah, no, this is worse. Why do all the platforms have such detailed undersides? Why are these walls so big? How am I supposed to make a locked Sheikah door? Let's use a brush as a key, why not? What the fuck is this thing? In all seriousness, this was genuinely one of the highlights of the entire project. I adored building this, and it had nothing to do with the fact that I was on vacation at the time or that the fatigue had yet to set in. Got to make the climbing boots for this one. And with that, we reach the end of the Great Plateau, Dueling Peaks, and Hateno regions, as well as the end of 2023. Oh, what a grand and happy time this was. Let's keep going. And then I forgot the order that Grazi's videos went in, and I started on the lake region. This shrine was particularly interesting in that it was the only shrine in the base game to have the entrance point underneath a ceiling. It also had some really strange pillar designs, and for the first but not last time, no birch strips for the ceiling beams to protrude from. A very basic puzzle shrine. Fun build though. The endpoint in particular I'm really happy with. Somehow it took 20 shrines before we hit a test of strength. The build went smoothly for the most part. I copied across Talo Naag, cut off the floor section with the chests, redid the floor pattern a little, and added in the rock pillars. And now we have another one immediately after. Control C, Control V. I don't know why all these walls slope up like this. The ramps were a pain to build, so I eventually just settled on building one strip and then copying it across 3 times to save on the extra effort. All in all, pretty simple. Not much to this one. Lots of water and a few launchers copied across from the bomb shrine. This is where I decided to start using glazed terracotta for the orbs instead of conduits. All in all, it was pretty simple. These scales were fun to build, this curve was funky, this arch is held up by a small ceiling beam, which is a cool little detail. I also decided to try game-accurate ceiling beams again here, and the game gave me this. I hate this. I'm never doing this the game's way again. This was a pretty neat and compact shrine. I like these shrines that economically use their space. Okay, so it turns out there are actually 20 shrines in the Great Plateau, Dueling Peaks, and Hateno regions. I had accidentally put this and another couple into another category in my head, even though they are technically supposed to be in regions that I've already done. This shrine also came with the climbing gear, which finished off the set. And with this, 25% of the shrines are done. And with that, the Lake and Farron regions are done. Once again, I had forgotten about one shrine that's right next to the Gerudo Mountains, but is still technically in the lake region, but I don't care, I'm moving on. And with this shrine, we have actually finished the Dueling Peaks region. Pretty fun build, however repetitive. Had to build this 6x6 lantern. The underside of this final platform was pretty weird. This shrine has a lot of fun little tidbits. If you come over here, you can fall through to underneath the shrine. This is also one of the only shrines not to have ceiling beams, which was nice. It was a long build, taking 9 hours even with World Edit, but it was a fun build as well. For this I had to remake the orb socket on a smaller 8x8 scale, which was then used for most shrines in the future. I also had to make this big button design, look at it go. All in all, a nice quick build. Pretty unique shrine, this one. Featuring water hydrants, laser emitters, this weird design for a valve handle. Quick build. And here we have the final shrine that should have been in the Hateno region. I have no idea what the name is in reference to, but it was a pretty fun shrine to build nonetheless. These torch designs took a few variations, but I'm happy with this given that it needs to work on every orientation. These walls are also pretty funky. During the building of this shrine, I also got a DM from Sly who offered his help to me because he was similarly bored. I told him that shrines recently had been a breeze and that having 2 people on a small build only ever really slowed me down, and then I hit the next shrine. So you remember Hardamar Shrine? Finally, I used World Edit again with Grauzy's help to achieve this effect with the water in the shrine. And you remember Shayuto Shrine? The ramps were a pain to build, so I eventually just settled on building one strip and then copying it across 3 times to save on the extra effort. Welcome to the end point of that. So in order to create the right angle of water flow, I couldn't just rely on Minecraft's regular water generation. It travels too far out, so the water would be too deep. So I used World Edit to cut the water off with air after 2 blocks, and then I copied the entire thing and pasted it over and over again to create the slope. And then the second thing came up. This water doesn't update each tick. That's the only way I could create this effect. Placing a block does update the water, causing it to flow down and update all the other bits of water, completely ruining the effect. Placing a block, like I needed to do in order to create this pinball-ass shit in the water. I had to recreate this effect so many times after each barrier to make sure that the water would flow properly around it. Also, there are these boulder chutes at the back which fit together in the weirdest possible pattern. Also, this iron grate slopes down, so I needed to substitute in quartz stairs to get the right angle. Also, this ball socket here is 12 blocks wide for whatever reason, so I had to remake that from scratch, plus the cage for the endpoint, and the void extends all the way under here, so that was fun. I'm getting kinda sick of these shrines. And with that, the Lanayru region is done. I'm more than a third of the way through, and I desperately need to take a break.
Horaltum has basically pillaged Gerudo Town.
So, Horaltum is on his way here. He's gonna meet me in the throne room. You guys are all going to hide up in Riju's bedroom, and when Horaltum denies to give me all of my stuff back, you jump down. Do we have a deal?
Why not? Sure.
All of my stuff?
Everything I took.
And despite him agreeing to the peace terms and agreeing to hand back all the stuff, they killed him in cold blood anyways.
Growing pains, Grassy, baby steps.
Growing pains.
You're right.
Pretty
Slaying a
painful growing
person,
pains as far as it goes.
Slaying a person who agreed to their peace treaty, that's growing pains?
I'll supply you with any information you can. I'll be kind of like
A mole.
a mole, right?
They're right there. Goat's right
Hey.
there. If you come up here, I'm killing you. If you come up here, we're killing you.
Clearly you're a threat if you want to... Oh my god!
Get your swords to this.
Still. I have mean no harm.
Leave, or I'm going to kill you. Leave, or I'm going to kill you. If you come up here, I'm killing you. If you come up here, I'm killing you. We warned her. I don't know what to do. We warned her.
Been helping
Also, I believe you wanted this.
I will use this for dramatic payoff later.
I will join your alliance under one condition. Peace is established.
And Grazi hadn't said anything, we wouldn't have killed him. We wouldn't have done anything.
Towards war. Do you not see that? I blew the horn regardless if they agreed or not. Voxel?
Now I don't know whether or not I want to trust Goat here, because if...
Maybe you should have made that decision before giving me all your resources.
Whoa, what the fuck?
So that was something that happened. After all that, I felt refreshed enough to continue with the project. This was a very nice and easy build to get back into the project with. Starting on the Garuda region was daunting, but I was happy to get this shrine built, which also officially finished the lake region. Welcome to the shrine with 5 walls. What do I mean, you ask? Look at this! Look at it! I cannot conceive of any reason why you would build the outer wall this way. Every other shrine builds interior walls slightly lower than the outer walls, and usually without birch strips. But no! We really needed this particular bit of wall that no one was going to look at go further back than it needs to, but we also want to start the ceiling beams in the wrong spot, so fuck it! Let's do both! Why not? I also made this design for the conveyor belts. Apparently the labyrinths give you loot based on the order you complete them, meaning you will always get the helmet, then the leg wraps, then the armor, in that order, regardless of the order that the labyrinths were completed in. So I did a quick little poll amongst the builders, and I was able to ascertain that most people complete the island labyrinth first, and that most people complete the desert labyrinth before the snow labyrinth. Scientific, I know. My sample size of 5 people's hazy memory led me to decide that this labyrinth should contain the leg wraps, and that I should save the helmet for the island labyrinth and the armor for the snow labyrinth. The most unique apparatus shrine of the 5, that's for sure, using electricity, wind, and fire. I had to design this battery, as well as the electric conduit, as well as putting 4 wind turbines on this one block, which mostly kinda works, but there wasn't really a better solution. Another shrine whose design just baffles me. The entire shrine is in this confined, walled-in space. There's lime-glazed terracotta for electric nodes, lime and brown wool, carpets and banners for powered and unpowered circuits respectively. There's a node hanging from a chain hung from these smaller beams, and there are these cogs in the final room just in front of the endpoint. And then once you reach the endpoint, to the left and right is just a drop into the void. Pulling up, you can see that the entire shrine is just floating there in a void far bigger than it needed to be. The lip of the walls are really short, and they seemingly just threw in birch strips because having an entire shrine without any would just be weird. But trust me, this is not the most baffling use of the floor space the Sheikah have. I adored building the shrine. It's everything that I liked about Kenamut taken to the extreme. Everything is built to stack on top of each other and lead back to everything else, and even though it leads you to redoing this entire chasm because you fucked up the measurements the first time around and it's actually not long enough for the arena on top, it means that this entire thing comes together in a really satisfying way. Still too much void around the back, and this shield chest posed a problem later, but I'll get to that. This shrine just looks so cool from above. I added some extra blocks to the wires to make the ends and turns stand out more clearly, just like in the game. But besides the fun challenge of fitting the wires together on the right scale, this was a fun shrine without the growing tedium of too many constellations or ceiling beams. It was around this time I was approached with a request. This is the Bread Pirate. We worked together very briefly on the SMP. This is him in the corner during this clip. Anyway, after the SMP had died down, Bread wanted to help with the map. He and Grazi settled on him building hidden dungeons around the map, and to help him with that, he wanted me to build... No, this is not an actual shrine from the game. So I got a Discord message from Bread, and he called me Hall. So Burr had an idea for a dungeon where you ended by sneaking your way into a shrine interior through the vent. I have elected not to make the joke. The message he sent me came with the request to help him with the walls, which didn't look quite right, because they were spheres. So after I turned them into walls and gave them a proper floor in the first platforming section, we got to work on the actual puzzle, which I wanted to theme around arrows, since there's very few puzzles in Breath of the Wild exploring them. So we have a series of puzzles here involving buttons, thrown items, setting arrows on fire, and trading with a Fletcher to get a potion effect arrow for the final room. I'm going to let all of you find and beat this short puzzle yourself when you download the map, although Bread might change it a bit, but I'm genuinely really proud of how this all came together and how it's all fully functional, and how the lava hatch closes perfectly every single time. Honestly, I think this is the peak of Breath of the Wild shrine design. Making sure you understand how bombs work with launchers, and then teaching you to consider using 2 bombs at the same time rather than just 1 bomb you can choose the shape of. Anyway, I built these 2 side rooms, this roof over the center, had to design a 2x2 lantern to fit up on this ledge, and then I was very happy when the end room fit perfectly on top of the previous roof. Realizing I had forgotten about this shrine for a second, I quickly went up and finished it off. It was a simple series of hazards, but it won't really come together until later when Haoziki goes through and adds all the flame emitters. Speaking of... While I was procrastinating on the next shrine, I got a message from Haoziki. He wanted to announce multiplayer functionality for his data pack by showcasing a 2-person shrine trial, and he was looking for my help to make it look like an actual shrine. And when I logged on, I really should have gotten screenshots. It was impressively off scale. Not to blame him, he didn't really know the ins and outs of the shrines, he's sacrificed his sanity to a different beast entirely. But yeah, pretty much everything was just barely off-center, or 1 block away from being to scale, or something like that. I went through the entire thing, and I touched it up 1 block at a time. I finished turning the outline as it existed so far into a proper shrine, at which point Haoziki copied it to a single-player world and finished it up himself. He sent me a photo of the finished thing with this different lantern design that I really should have used from the start. He honestly gives me more credit than I deserve for this. I'm just bringing it up so I can more directly mention and thank Haoziki for all the work he's done on making these shrines functional, as well as just generally spending too much time on this data pack and being a great and fucking hilarious human being. Okay, that's my sincerity quota filled. We're moving on. This trial was slightly unique due to the water floor, but it ultimately just came down to removing the pillars and filling in the floor with one layer of water. A nice and simple room with a nice and simple puzzle. Only challenge was this electric cube flying through the air. A new small gear design, a fun time had making all these iron bars look like this. I didn't know this part of the shrine even existed until I started building this. And then this at the end, a genuinely fun challenge that didn't involve any water blocks. Overall, a great shrine with which to end the long Gerudo Desert, and to reach the 50% point. Genuinely not a single boring or contrived section in this entire shrine. I'm really happy with how this quite complex structure turned out, and the small total size meant that the ceiling beams were really easy to do. I wish all the pain and misery that anyone has ever felt upon the designers of Moglatan Shrine. Let me explain. Every obstacle in the first 2/3 of this shrine is hung from chains or ropes. They are hung from these 1-block wide versions of the ceiling beams. Directly translating game size to Minecraft blocks, they are 3.5 blocks long. Are you starting to see the problem? No matter how I put them together, they either won't match within their own pattern, or they won't match with the other patterns, and unlike previously, where if a ceiling beam was 1 or 2 blocks off it didn't really matter, these ceiling beams actively affect the location of objects in the interactive part of the shrine, hence the points of creative liberty you can see. And if all that wasn't enough, this shrine is suspended over a void that is too big, features platforms with far too intricate undersides, and features new designs that will barely be used anywhere else. I did look in this design for burnable leaves though, so that was nice. I could rant about this shrine for the rest of this video, but I'm going to leave it at that because there is no need for us both to lose our sanity. A fun little shrine build, the most challenging aspect of which was figuring out the distance between the start platform and the machine itself. Once again, a fun little shrine without much to it. There is this weird platform back here to make it a perfect square, but it's small enough that I don't much mind. This indent in the wall for the switch stretches out a bit into the space of the endpoint, so that was a bit of work, but otherwise it was all nice and easy. I'm really running out of things to say about these mediocre shrines. I don't know, I built this while watching Nakey Jakey talk about Starfield. There you go, that's something. Why is this not a blessing, but the one on the side of Mount Lanero is? Anyway, this shrine is pretty hard to actually see anymore because of all the rocks, but I assure you that the rubber armor is in place and there is in fact a large button beneath all that rock. Yeah, guys, you got your blessing shrine in the wrong spot. You got your blessing shrine in the wrong spot. Another very basic shrine involving pistons. This one was built while rewatching The Boys Season 1 in preparation for Season 4. Sorry, Verdana, I am actually going to have to talk about this shrine. Okay, so I absolutely adore this build. It's the first big shrine that feels like it needs the extra space, and so I'm fine with building more when the build work is interesting. This shrine is layered, it has so many different nooks and crannies and interesting details, and it's such a shame that you can just win bomb straight to the end and skip it, because it's both incredible and the only complex shrine puzzle in this game where the intended solution doesn't use runes. It was around now that I decided I wanted to make this video, and so after all day building I recorded myself a voice memo to record my immediate thoughts. Ka-Akeo Shrine, Wind Guide, number 73. This one's weird as the most... It reminds me more of like a Tears of the Kingdom sort of shrine. It's built around using the Korok leaf, which is pretty interesting, for what it's worth. It's lots of very open space, and it revolves around like balloons, which I don't remember being in the game. That being said, I don't remember this shrine being in the game, like, at all. I think in the save file I have, I just win-bombed to the end. I've been building for 14 hours straight. Yeah. Re-record notes when brain is fucking functioning. I decided that this was a bad idea and I never did it again. I built this at this point in time and definitely didn't only realize I hadn't done it while writing the script, why do you ask? So I'm going to talk about this later, even though it should really go here. I thought I'd done it, and so I counted all the numbers as if I had done it, and those numbers line up really nicely, so just shut up and let me have this, please. A fun little stasis shrine with a bunch of disconnected puzzles. Had to design a button at a weird 45-degree-ish angle to start, before building it straight vertical later. Also, the void is just kinda underneath everything here, so I had to build most of the outer walls twice! God, this lava is doing wonders for my frames. This one was pretty simple, however Job showed up halfway through and got mad that this chest wasn't centered. So I would like to introduce you to a new design for a chest, because it was absolutely necessary. This chest can hold one item, and when you take the item, nothing can go back in. The next day, we set up Jobs' corner in the teleportation hub. We faced problems later with this iron trapdoor floor in Ka-Akeo, and especially with trying to figure out how to hide the shield in Dark Otar, and I still have no idea how we're going to do the Climber's Bandana or Barbarian Helm. That's the main thing from this shrine. It's pretty basic otherwise, just a series of wiry things with wind gusts across them. Also, as of recording this, Jopes hasn't finished the chests, and it seems like we'll be doing something with Halziki's data pack to do the chests, so this may never happen and we'll just move on to a better system. But, thanks for it anyway, Jopes. Okay, I had no idea that this shrine had this back section, but it was so much more detailed than the rest of the shrine that it took me like twice as long. I left the windmills and switches for Jopes to do, and then I moved on. Standard fare. Rooms far too big, the platforms all have far too detailed undersides, etc. There were far more constellations here than I was expecting though, and Jopes was pissed off by this ladder, but not enough to fix it. And with that, the Richland and Tibet regions were done. You know how I was talking earlier about inefficient usage of floor space? Well, after I noticed that this wall was quite low, I wind-bombed over to find the area of the shrine doubled with this massive amount of dead space that I still had to build ceiling beams over. I remembered watching She Says and Boundary Break years ago, and remembered all the shrines being one large square when put together a certain way. Is that why some of these shrines are meaninglessly extended? What is going on here? But it turns out, going back to check that video, each shrine is in its own loading zone. So what the fuck?! So this shrine started off like any other. I was casually building room after room, coming behind myself to build the roof, and slowly I made it to the end, where I realized that the right wall here is slightly lower than the outer wall further down here, which led me to assume there was some form of platform up there, and I needed to figure out which pattern the wall was in. So I tried myself, but discovered an invisible wall in the way. So I took to Grazi's Discord server, where no one responded, and so I took to the Breath of the Wild speedrunning Discord, to hopefully find someone better at breaking the game over their knee than I. And I found that person when GTA Panda arrived in the channel. I explained my situation, and he started working. At this time, Cass, in Grazi's Discord server, informed me that I was an idiot and could have just looked underneath a platform in the void to find the wall pattern, but before I could tell GTA Panda to stop, he had already made it up there. So I thanked him, realized I could actually see the border between the top of the wall and the glass in this clip, thanked him profusely, and then finished up building the shrine. He told me to let him know if I needed any more help. Just another nice little wind puzzle. This shrine goes to Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. Season 7. I came back here later to get the footage, and I noticed something a bit different about the outside of the shrine. Seems to be advice of some sort. So somehow I made it through 82 shrines without encountering a metal block test of strength. I thought this would be easy, but it turns out having metal blocks in the floor necessitates having the whole path pattern rearranged, so this ended up taking an hour when I was barely prepared for it to take 5 minutes. I was really impressed. A simple, fun, single puzzle room. Don't know why it's called that though. I built this entire thing over 4 hours while on a Discord call with Jopes and his friends. It features this unique platform, a unique press-down button design, and these cool and unique patterns lining the walls of the exit. Feels like I'm selling you a fucking Lego set. These test of strength types have to be grouped because there's no way I have a second metal block room in a row. Stretching the numbers for the sake of the narrative was a really great idea right up until I realized I'd have to tell you I did it, but never mind. This was a genuinely fun and unique shrine that was the perfect size and had a unique spiral staircase pattern, and maybe I was just happy because I was pretty much done with Hebra. And as planned, the barbarian armor went into the chest here, and just like that, the Hebra region is complete and 75% of the shrines are built. So Jobs casually mentioned to me that he was in possession of Gricken. I told him I had an idea. Then things went downhill from there. 2 hours later, I had agreed to build the dungeon from the Champion's Ballad DLC, known as the Divine Trial. I decided to split this into parts. I took the Shrine of Resurrection from the Great Plateau and realized it was on a 45-degree angle. So once I copied it, and most of the surrounding cliff, across, I removed all the dirt and stone, and I rotated the shrine to be on a 90-degree axis, before I filled in the gaps and placed it down as the start of the build. I then built the top of the Shrine of Resurrection, this little section of the second room that gets pulled down with you, and this long elevator, with alternating mud bricks, polished deep slate, and redstone lamps behind light blue stained glass. I built out from the door and into the main room. Furnishing the walls along the west side, I made it to this small ledge that meets the other side of the elevator glass. I quickly built that up and put in this chest behind the iron bars. Further, I added the stairs on the left and the lava pool on the right, although I didn't add in the cog yet. By pulling out the metal at the exact time that the bottom door lined up, I was able to get the turbine to stay in the position that I wanted it. Starting with the bottom of the turbine and the circle visible to the main room, I built up the doorways and metal sockets for the turbine entrance, and then on the inside I could add in the big battery as it extends out 3 ways. At this point along the cylinder, the upper half extends outward a bit, allowing for a little platform on each side leading to these stairs that curl up inwards towards the center, where they meet the 3 ways that extend from the other side of the turbine. One section of each side of the turbine was easy, just mud bricks and deep slate. The iron pillars that you used to make the second half of the turbine move were easy enough as well, but the wires posed a bit of a problem, so I asked Jopes if he had any ideas on how to build them. I probably should have known he'd do something with command blocks, and he created this before wanting to take a break for the night. He later came back and said, and I quote, "Fuck that," to the idea of doing any more of them, so this is all we got. So here's Jopes' little segment, and here's the other design that I used for the unpowered bit on the other side. Then there's this back corner, which could have been on the bottom left and the right way up if I'd chosen the other doorway to start with, but no, this is fine, it houses the terminal. Yep, look at that terminal. Before I started on the second turbine, I elected to build the sections above both of the first 2 turbines, because it was the exact same design. They both build to the center like this, and then reach across to almost meet in the middle. I am absolutely astounded that a design consisting of literally 2 blocks looks as good as it does. The terminal here is immediately to the right of the entrance, just past 2 pools of lava. Beyond that is this rotating spike pole with 2 lines of spikes twisting around it, for which I used my usual technique of end rods. However, end rods can't be placed under lava, so the underneath of the pole is a little lacking. Beyond that is this ring of fire emitters, which as I write this are still inactive, so hopefully that gets done. Then at the end of the turbine is this ball and maze puzzle, which despite being slightly larger than the version in the game, I think I did a good job with. The ball then rolls down this chute into the socket, which is just a crappier version of the wooden tube I use in shrines. And that's turbine 2. This was a pretty basic build, just up to the line of the monk room door. Built these 2 raised platforms, built the map terminal, built this little bridge across. I decided to build the front of the 2 turbines so I could build their similar but different upper wall sections. Then, after building this little section where the walls come inward a bit for the monk room door, I was done. This turbine is unique in being both the longest one and the only one in which the rotation barely factors in. Beyond this first room with the rotating platform spinning up through the water, the rest of the turbine doesn't care how it's being rotated. Going through the hole in the wall comes out to this hose valve, which I am genuinely really proud of, and a series of taps pouring water into this pool here. You can stop the water flow, lowering the water level, which grants you access to a chest and this turbine to fire a ball back at the valve and raise the water again using this button. This was more of a long build than a particularly challenging one, but I did learn that you can waterlog sculpt shriekers, so that's fun. So it was kind of a simplification when I called the other terminal rooms turbines, but yeah. This was pretty easy to build, the turbine design came along easily, this interior circle with all the iron bars looks nice, and there was a lot of confusion on my part while trying to build a cylinder with an indent on one of the sides, and I don't even know if you can tell there's a gear behind these iron bars. Also, Whale showed up while I was AFK and built Gerald, so he's here now. After quickly building the outermost layer of the monk door, I set to work on building the gearbox, the central moving piece that rotates each turbine, which I've been avoiding showing so far. The first big hurdle was this massive gear used to gain height in order to get to the last two turbines. Counting it out, the gear had 16 notches and 8 platforms spread around, which meant that the first platform had to be at an angle of 22.5 degrees, with the next platforms at 45 degrees further around than the last. By using different combinations of iron trapdoors and quartz stairs, I got the grate texture looking good at every angle, which was then capped off with mud brick blocks on the other side. This then connected to a cog with the metal piece to insert into the first turbine, and a second cog down in the lava by the second turbine. Further along the main shaft, the map terminal splits off downwards, which was quick. Then the shaft enters this box, which is connected to this large grated platform. I built up the ladders from each of the sides using world edit so they didn't have to have blocks behind them. Then the iron platform was built up along the top to connect the two sides, with pillars connecting to the upper walls before I started on the unique modifications to each side. On the left side, a secondary shaft ran under the platform before moving back up to connect a stone weight system to turbine 3, linked to this platform pulley system that I despise. Why does it just protrude from the wall like that? It looks like a tumor and I hate it. On the right side, a simpler system involving interlocking magnesis objects moves gears to operate turbine 4. From there, I just needed to bring the shaft out of the box and connect it to the bunk room door. This one was pretty simple. I just had to build the inside angle of the monk door, before copying across a shrine exit, adding this pagoda-like roof, building some fairly open walls, and building up this floor pattern. Outside every corner of the monk room and above the pillars of the roof, there is this really weird texture that almost looked like stone with bright clouds in front of it. After trying for a couple hours to replicate this accurately, I eventually just went with a combination of stone, andesite, and tuff for the stone, with streaks of quartz blocks, diorite, polished diorite, glowstone, and sea lanterns for the clouds. Learning how world edit brushes worked kind of on the fly, I quickly put together a possible backdrop for the monk room before I headed up to the roof. I created some flat planes, but that wasn't working so well, so I changed the entire middle to the cloud color and then started to pull up 3 blocks from either side, one layer further than the last, forming this kind of concave ceiling. I'm still not really that happy with either of these, but not only was I a complete amateur at the time, and still kind of now, but I had been working on a side project for 4 days and just wanted to get back to work on the shrines. And then we kidnapped Gricken and brought him here, and it was the whole thing. A very simple physics puzzle. No new designs or strange design choices. It's exactly what I needed. After quickly building the first area of this shrine, I spent a day and a half trying to wind bomb up onto the high inner wall of this shrine. Once again, this shrine has far more area than it really needs. But knowing that I could get up there, and knowing that it would be far more work trying to get GTA Panda to give me every different angle I would need of the 3 different walls you could only see from up there, I kept trying and trying and trying. And eventually, after watching Batman, Batman Returns, Batman Forever, 10 minutes of Batman and Robin, and most of Dragoon's video output, I made it up to the ledge. I surveyed all the walls and built them out. The rest of the shrine was easy compared to that. I got a couple offers for help from Mighty and Voxel, but the rest of Akala looks really easy, so I thanked them but said no. Of the 3 unique trials in the whole of Akala, 2 of them are apparatus trials. Of course. For some reason, the ceiling beams seemed to extend over the right wall, so I asked GTA Panda to look into it, and he said there was nothing beyond it. Because why follow the precedent of 100 other shrines when you can just say, fuck it, I'm doing it my way and the beams go here? Besides that, this was a simple, just kind of big shrine. I was ecstatic to find that the undersides of these platforms were mostly just basic shapes or entirely flat. Well, apart from the 2 starting platforms, but that's still a win in my book. I also built Kilton while I was here, because nobody had yet. And in line with the other labyrinths, this one gets the Barbarian Helm. And with that, the Akala region is done. Apart from being number 100, this shrine was pretty unremarkable. Just a bunch of chests to hide around and a bunch of vines all over the place. "101. It took 101 shrines before I had to deal with a diagonal entrance. I don't know if I'm thankful there are so few or pissed off there are any at all. Beyond that, this was a pretty standard shrine, just more of the stasis trail objects put together in a different formation. I expected this to be hell, just like Moglatan. It really wasn't. Everything fit together really easily, and I have no idea why. Voxel helped me come up with the idea of using a brewing stand as the connector between the lantern and the chain, and I quite like it. It is absolutely shocking that this didn't cause me more grief. Another one of those weight puzzles. Had to build the scales upside down. Not much of note beyond that. This is a singularly stupid shrine. It starts down the bottom, then there is a 250 block long ramp, and then it ends at the top. With the help of GTA Panda, I was able to see the boulder positions before triggering them, allowing me to accurately place in the boulders along the hill. The simplest shrine I could have built. Done whilst watching the crew play Mario Kart. Lots of moving parts in this one. It's another one of those that loops around on top of itself, only I didn't need to rebuild anything because I fucked up the scale this time. I did have to use frog lights in this button instead of redstone lamps so that it didn't extend too far into the lower floor. But aside from that, this was a really interesting and creative shrine that was a lot of fun to make. Until I made it to the final room. I noticed that this wall was a bit lower, but there was an invisible wall on the top. I asked GTA Panda to get a view of the platform that extends from this wall to the outer wall. He responded, confused, but managed to get up there anyway. Turns out he was confused because the wall drops down to like half the shrine again in floor space. Why is it like this? Who decided that the shrines really needed enough space to hide away Kakariko Village just in case? Was it the Sheikah? Was it you, Maz? You might have unlimited resources, but I don't have unlimited time. Grazi started building Korok Forest. The end of the project is nigh. I need to finish this quickly. Let's get to the next build. I can't do it.
I need help.
And so I went to the other builders, and, hat in hand, I asked for their help. And all I got was bread, saying he wouldn't be able to. Nobody else offered their help. And I was defeated. I was just too late. A week earlier, when Grazi was off building on his own, I had people jumping at the chance to help. But I turned them down too many times, and now nobody wanted to help me. Defeated but determined, I started to work on the shrine on my own. And then, the funniest thing happened. Maybe it was luck, maybe it was fate, maybe it was because the thing that Grazi was building was extremely boring, but people started coming over. Alfie using her free cam to explore all the out-of-bounds areas, Goat deciding to finally make some better guardians, Hauziki shining down the Star of Bethlehem to guide our path. I got help from Voxel and Mighty and Sly and Ombrains, and Celios was also there. He didn't do much, but the moral support was appreciated. I've lost my trail of thought. Anyway, with all this help, this gargantuan build was complete after barely 6 hours. And with that, Elden was done, and the final 10% of shrines were underway.
Get in the hole! God damn it. And over, and over, and over, and over, and over, and over.
You've got to be kidding me. Yeah, I only started writing this script this far in. After finding that I had forgotten to do this one, I immediately hopped onto it. Not to procrastinate with mirror sheds or anything, promise. So after I built the first small area, I took one look at the cannon and decided to procrastinate further. And let me tell you, I am so happy that I did this now, because it would have been impossible to do it when I was meant to do it. For starters, thanks to GTA Panda's efforts with Kara Mar Shrine, I was able to think to use Moonjump to land on these smaller platforms in order to get an easier view of their position relative to the wall, and also to see the target more up close. After building the first firing range, I decided it was time to force myself to work on the cannon. So I asked for a bit of help, expecting it to take at least half an hour. However, Grazi teleported across to me, used one axiom curve command, helped me come up with this design for the barrel, and 5 minutes later the cannon was done. This shrine also happens to be the final boss of unused floor space. Most of the outer wall of this shrine is completely inaccessible by all means. I asked GTA Panda for his help, and after 12 hours he still hadn't been able to make it up there. So I asked Alfie and her literally just in the past week installed FreeCam to help me out. So she did, and we followed the wall around as I built it up. This was absolutely the right shrine to forget. Yep, I'm still procrastinating. After finishing Bareeda Naag, I noticed a problem. The script said I should have just finished Shrine 108, but my Shrine Hub had 109 completed shrines, and I only counted 10 shrines left on the map. So I went through my Shrine Hub, first checking each trial, then each blessing, and finally each test of strength, until I found this one. I had missed it while checking over the map writing the script, because it's underneath Dig Dog Suspension Bridge at the edge of 3 regions. I had already set the teleport IDs for the shrines to use the numbers in this script, so I'm tacking it on here so I don't have to redo all of that, even though I did this like 60 shrines ago. So then I had to figure out which other shrine I should have built by now. So I'm out of ways to procrastinate. Alright, so this genuinely wasn't as bad as I thought it would be. It was still bad, don't get me wrong, but between a lot of copied assets and everyone on top form with their humor on Grazi's Twitch stream...
Grazi sounds like a drunk guy trying to explain how driving is a great idea. I don't know what you're talking about. Get this man his keys. Give me my keys, guys. I can go driving in this state. Not every drunk driver is a bad driver.
I was able to get all of this done in one afternoon and evening, before I was able to really get bored. The main saving grace here is that each of the 2 golf holes have a very similar design. The walls are the same, just truncated for the second one, and the holes themselves use the exact same design, which OnBrains helped me build. This made the second hole very easy to copy across and just quickly remodel, rather than building it from scratch, which sped up the whole process tremendously. The middle section, with this smaller stasis puzzle and the exit, was a bit more challenging, especially trying to figure out the proper size for this platform and the wall underneath it. But it all came together, and not having to worry about connecting the ceiling beams to the actual connection points in this one was nice. So according to Mako, the puzzle here is not simply wind bomb through the gap to reach the end. There's something to do with counting the different number of constellation patterns. So after learning this, I built up the entire shrine, including this chest around the corner.
The Groker says, why so glorious?
And I moved on to the next shrine. Wow, I am far closer to done than I thought. And this shrine is easy. This shrine has a diagonal exit. Why? It's literally the only one. What the fuck, Aonuma? Why did you do this? Also, this shrine has the most fun alternate solution in the entire game. So when I started this project, I was getting really into Tom Cardy following the release of Beautiful Mind. I'm going somewhere here, I promise. I listened to a bunch of his at the time recent songs over and over again while I was building the first couple shrines, because that's how I engage with music. Listen to it over and over again, and if I'm not sick of it by then, it's probably a pretty good song. While I was building these last couple shrines, Tom's third album, The Dance Floor at the End of the Universe, dropped. And in addition to the incredible new songs and extended versions of old songs and previously released singles, was one other. A little song called Level Clear, re-released in the album without all the skits at the start and the end. I actually recorded replay mod footage to make a montage of this final shrine build. The first little bit isn't usable due to a combination of Haoziki constantly restarting the server to set up Hyrule Castle biomes, and also just me simply forgetting to record. I'm going to put that montage here. If I can, I'll put Level Clear over it, or at least an instrumental. If not, I'll leave it silent and you can boot up Spotify or whatever you use and play the song over the top of it. I know that's a lot of work to put into watching a YouTube video, but frankly, there aren't any words I could say here that describe my mental state more than this comedy song about Mario. What's harder, I wonder? Pushing the boulder up the hill, or the moments after you've reached the summit?
Boss dead, level clear, where do I go from here? Walk home, try to eat, I'm not hungry, go to sleep. I can't sleep, lie in bed, think about what bad guy said.
Even if you did defeat me, what would you do then?
Online course, back to school, pass the bar, superstar, sue a guy, win big, walk home, try to sleep. Level clear, lie in bed, think about what bad guy said.
Even if you did defeat me, what would you do then?
Buy a ticket, see the world, move to Spain, meet a girl, fall in love, have 4 kids, learn the joy of family gives. Live my life, love my wife, share a bed every night, still can't sleep, lie in bed, level clear, start again. Raise money, charity, save the whale, save the trees, save the bees, save all life, win the Nobel Peace Prize. Preach that kindness is an art, live it all and mankind's heart, try to sleep, lie in bed, level clear, start again. Alright. Thank you. You win.
Even if you did defeat me, what would you do then?
Grab a guy, beat him up, threaten his life, take his stuff, fight more people, take their shit, start a crime syndicate, deal some drugs to kids, hide some bodies in a fridge, get killed by my second in command.
Level clear.
Start again. Still can't sleep, lie in bed.
Alright. Look to God, say wow, preach the book and make the vow. Leader of the whole congregation, level clear. Train in 9Gs, a space trip, 3 years in a rocket ship. Be the first player on Saturn, level clear.
Start again.
Practice medicine, pay my fees, raise awareness around cheese knees, cure the famous deadly cheese knees disease. Don't even try to sleep. TikTok live stream, take a big ball of ham, put it in my mouth, get a lot of likes, subscribe, hashtag ham guy, level clear.
Start again.
Train that body 7 days a week. Protein, cardio, level up, no sleep. Become the greatest sportsman in the world. Golf, tennis, race car driver, Olympian, umpire, level clear. Plumber, carpenter, composer, doctor, builder, level clear. Fighter, painter, royal family negotiator, level clear. River breakdancer, turtle killer, foot freelancer, level clear. Astronaut, denture cleaner on a beach resort. Alright. Thank you. You win.
Even if you did defeat me, what would you do then?
Alright. Thank you. You win.
Even if you did defeat me, what would you do then?
Well, there's always the DLC shrines. The Trial of the Sword Chambers was started months ago and then left abandoned, so let's wrap that up. Bread will probably keep making more dungeons. Hazuki's going to implement his data pack into the map, which will doubtless involve the shrines. But now the boulder's reached the summit, and I pushed it up there, bit by bit, over the course of a year. And you may imagine me happy, I fucking did it. But in the act of documenting it, in the act of making this video, I feel all I've done is pushed it up to the top of the hill, and then taken a selfie and pushed it right back down. Condemned myself to pushing it up another hill, and another, and another, and another, and maybe I can find the right hills that are just the right amount of challenging, fun, and doable to be entertaining for me to do and you to watch, but all it takes is one hill that's a bit too steep, and suddenly I'm crushed underfoot by something that I chose to do. The first goal of this project was to be noticed by Grazi, to be able to spend my time helping out with a project that people would enjoy. And then, that happened. Then it became about trying to be noticed by Grazi's audience, to assure me that people cared about the work I was putting in. Then, all of a sudden it became about trying to create an environment where I could do this forever, where I had connections who could help me make videos, where I had people with established audiences I could hijack. But now that I've reached the end of this, of the biggest project I've ever worked on, of this year of my life, I don't know that I want to keep doing this. I had plans for how I was going to wrap up this video, all through the planning, the writing, the editing. Promise a video covering the DLC, wrap up in a funny way, finally get that haircut. Ugh. I was gonna wear this shirt in the outro to tease a Arkham Asylum build. But if I do that and people like it, what next? Arkham City? Arkham Knight? Do you know how many blocks Minecraft Gotham would take? Because I've spent hours trying to do that math, and I still have no idea. I put out a community post thanking people for subscribing after Grousey shouted me out in the Hyrule Castle video. Without even a video for people to watch, I gained 500 subscribers in 3 days. There was just one comment on the community post. A couple other people asked me about my future plans too, and I even went into a bit more detail in one of the replies. None of that is a lie. I really do want to build Arkham Asylum. I really do want to build the big MT in the Sierra Madre Casino. I really do want to build most of Persona 5 Royal. I really want to start an SMP. In fact, I'll combine a shout out with a call out here. Fix It 412. If you're particularly interested, I think I have an idea you'll like. Bring Sneeve if he's interested. But if I do all that, kinda seals my fate, doesn't it? Arkham Asylum is an interesting build. But if that video takes off, all of a sudden I have a bunch of new subscribers who want me to do more Minecraft Batman. And then I'm resigned to more than a year of building each individual structure across 3 different islands. Those New Vegas DLC areas are interesting builds, but the main game world, despite being incredible for the game itself, it's horrible for Minecraft building. It's large clumps of incredibly compact stuff, like the Strip, the Fort, or Hoover Dam, separated by massive stretches of fuck all. Not to mention even thinking about the geometry involved with trying to build lonesome roads, buildings at all those weird angles gives me a headache. Persona 5 Royal? Sure, I would love to build it all. But building a series of disconnected zones doesn't exactly make for the best world for people to run around in. Not to mention the hell that the exteriors of most palaces would be, and God forbid I try and build mementos. And beyond that, do I really want to commit myself to Minecraft YouTube of all things? There's a reason why the connotations associated with being a Minecraft YouTuber are much worse than the connotations associated with just being a YouTuber. The fan base is assumed to be terrible, the creator is assumed to be exploiting their audience, much recently in far worse interpretations of the word, and the content is dismissed outright for no other reason than because it looks superficially similar to stuff that should be dismissed outright. Over the course of making this project, no one outside the build team knew who I was. Not really. They knew who Shrine Guy was. They loved Shrine Guy. But Sam? No idea. Haltom? I'm pretty sure he was killed for stealing something at some point. I went back and forth on whether or not to include my face in this video. I went back and forth on whether or not to try and scrub my real name from my YouTube and Discord before too many people found it. But I decided against it lest I just be Shrine Guy. The internet is dehumanizing enough sometimes. So to answer your question honestly, German Gaming, I don't know. I'll continue to get wrapped up in crazy projects, that's for sure. I have an idea for something that would cost a lot of time and money and would probably ruin my and 3 other people's physical and mental health for quite a while. But it would do some serious good for charity, if enough people cared. I don't want to keep doing Minecraft over and over again. Not in this way, at least. I adored the Breath of the Wild SMP because I could tell a really unique story in collaboration with other people who were just as invested in telling a good story. Nobody on that server other than Grousey and Celios had any intention of making themselves a main character. We just fell upwards into those roles naturally, and between us we created one of the greatest improv stories I've ever seen. Not that I'm biased or anything. So maybe I try and do that again. I'm not sure how many people from that server would be down with the idea that I've got, though. I want to be a storyteller. That's what the focus of this video was trying to be. This video could be so much more than just a book report, and I really hope I've made something that is that. There are certain stories I want to tell in the future. Some involve certain characters, Some I don't nearly have the budget, permission, or creative control to make. But some I can do. Usually through an underused medium. Maybe it's a story that requires massive sets and we can tell it through an SMP. Maybe it's a story that has tens of thousands of characters and so we'll be doing a tabletop campaign. Maybe it's some documentary that I've created as a byproduct of diving down a really strange rabbit hole. So that's what I want this channel to become. That's what I want Sam Gao to become. And I think I know the first step to do that. So hi, I'm Sam. Nice to meet you. Hope to see you around.